Back to my channel. It's Dr. Dave. We're going to continue the pre-med series. Last couple of videos were more kind of philosophical and more overarching themes and principles, strategies and mindsets that you can employ as you're in the pre-med phase. This video I'm going to go more kind of tangible advice and action items that you can do. I think some of the most common questions I get I'm going to talk about in this video are three main objectives. One, how to create a strong application, like a med school application, what goes in it, and how do you ensure that your application stands out from others and you get that interview. The other things are what activities and extracurriculars you should be doing as a pre-med. And then the last and third one is how to get a research supervisor. I've got a lot of messages on TikTok and in person about how do I find the actual person I want to do research with, and how do I structure my summer. So like, when do you write your MCAT, when do you do your research, etc., etc. So those are the three main objectives of this video. I'm going to start off with what makes a very strong med school application. Now, having obviously applied to med school, I did it for one round, and then in the medical school, I did reviews for pre-meds, and so I reviewed med school applications. And I would be reviewing, I think I might have reviewed over 500 over a couple of years. And so that, and then also in residency, you're always reviewing applications. And you realize that, it's one thing you need to realize, it's just humans on the other side reviewing it. It's also real people. Like I was most of these times I was sitting on my couch late night with like something on the TV in the background as I'm scrolling through a lot of these apps. And I know some of my friends did the similar things. Ideally, you want like your reviewers to have full attention and like, give undivided attention to every single word and thing you write. But the reality of it is a lot of things are kind of skimmed, and we just look for certain quality indicators. And so what are these quality indicators? Some things I will outline that I think are very important that I looked for when I was looking at med school applications were quantity and quality, right? So if someone was doing 10 different extracurricular activities in the span of 1 year, 2 years, that was like a red flag for me, because, and again, we had this different criteria. So different schools will have different criteria based on where you rank the extracurriculars, where you rank the research, where you rank, the overall personality, which are again done through reference letters, and then, whatever other things might be like relevance to the school priorities. Anyway, the extracurricular box, if someone went through many different extracurricular activities in a short amount of time, that just shows a lack of commitment and discipline. It just shows that you did something for 2 months and then you jumped on something else, and then you jumped onto something else. That does not bode well in medicine, because you're going to be committed for years to one thing. Whether you're going to become a surgeon in 6-year training, whether you're going to become an intensivist, it's going to be 5 years in training. After 4 years of medical school, there's a lot of things you have to commit. And it goes back to my earlier video about delayed gratification and really committing yourself to a future goal. And so when we see that on an application, we're like, that's not ideal. That's kind of a red flag. And so I've often docked marks for that, or not given positive marks. Like it'd be average, so if you do a bunch of different things, cool, but that doesn't necessarily set you apart. So then what should you do? The things that really set someone apart are things that were kind of out of the ordinary. So everyone volunteers in a hospital, everyone does some sort of research, everyone does some sort of like volunteerism thing. Ironically, I also did all of those things. So yeah, a lot of people do those things because, people who've gotten in have said, hey, that's what I did. And so people try to replicate that, which is good. But the caveat I would add is try to find something you're actually genuinely excited and interested in doing, because that shows in your application and subsequent interview. For example, there was a Relay for Life in, the city that I was in Canada, which is essentially, it's run by the Cancer Society. They have relays where people create teams, they fundraise money, and then you kind of do a relay in the afternoon and evening time. There's food stalls, massage chairs, people coming and families coming, supporting. They put up a tent and there's music, and it's just like a very nice event, but then the money's fundraised and donated to the cancer organization. And I got into that when I was in high school, in like grade 10, and I just stuck with it until like the end of my undergraduate year, and then when I started medical school. So I just did that for 3 + 4, 7 years. And it was not a lot of time commitment. It was usually just 2 or 3 months of time around summertime when the relay was happening. But the commitment to that is what's important, because then I got into the volunteer committee once I volunteered for a couple of years. And then I started to hire other volunteers to like help out with the event organization and all of those things. And so what really stands out is the commitment over time to one thing. And so that's what I would prioritize for you guys. If you're really worried, you're like, oh my god, there's so many things to do now, which is awesome in this like new day and age. You can connect with anyone, you can try so many things. So I would say try a lot of things, but then maybe pick 2 or 3 things that you really enjoy and you're actually interested in learning about, and commit to it. Another thing extracurricular that I did was like working in a pharmacy as a pharmacy technician, because I knew I wanted to make some money on the side. Because I lost my scholarship after my full ride scholarship. I got almost academic probation marks in first year undergrad because I was just having a lot of fun. And I was like, oh shoot, like I need to kind of make up this money back. So then I started to I needed a job. And I was like, oh, let me just do something medicine related. And then I had a family friend who ran a pharmacy, and I like asked them, he interviewed me and kind of got me in as like a pharmacy assistant. I would just help fill prescriptions. But that way I learned about medications, I learned about talking to patients about their conditions, and I just kind of got an exposure on that while I made money. So for me, that was like great, and I did that for like 3 years. So I would say find things that you're interested in and then just commit to that. The one other thing I'd mention is, I think in a previous video I talked about, I started like a non-profit group after I did like a volunteerism thing in India at an HIV orphanage for children. And that really moved me, and I thought I had to make a difference, because there was these middlemen companies that was like siphoning off majority of the money from Westerners like myself. And so then we created my own like student run group. We fundraised our own events, and then we like transitioned to try to make it an actual official NGO. It kept running for few years. I stopped it when I got into medical school. I handed over to a friend who was kind of in the pre-med phase, and so then that just kind of continued forward. And so it just kind of happened because I was actually interested, and I was passionate about making a difference on that. So I think if you focus on those things you're interested in, things you actually want to learn or are excited to go do, and then commit to it. And then commit to it for as long as you can. Even 6 months is better than just like doing something for 2-3 months. But ideally you want to do things for longer, and low quantity, like 2 or 3, 4 good things that you do for 2 to 5 years. That's going to be probably the best thing for your extracurriculars. And then the second thing then is, research. How do I get a research professor? I get a lot of these questions, and to be honest, the way it worked out for me is I just cold emailed 100 people, and 10 people got back. Out of them, 2 were interested, and then out of those 2, I picked one professor who was doing awesome research in HIV, actually, because it kind of just aligned with like the HIV orphanage that I was doing. I wanted to learn more about the science and research behind it. And his lab was working on finding a protein on the HIV molecule that you could target from your autoimmune system, your immune system, that would target a surface protein on the HIV and neutralize it, so then the HIV can't shed and can't replicate once you're infected, which I thought was so cool. I wanted to get involved in it. I got involved in it, at the end of 2nd year, and I just started shadowing. I'm like, can I just show up to your lab and just like see what's going on? He's like, yeah, come on through. So then I did that for like the winter term of 2nd year, and then as that ended, I applied for a summer research fellowship or summer, I think research studentship or something like that. That was through our university, so I got actually paid to do that, and then I just kind of was in his lab, and then that eased into 3rd year, where I did some intermittent work during the 3rd year while I was doing the pharmacy tech work, and then at the end of 3rd year did it again, a summer internship on that, and then I just transition that research onto a honors degree. So I did an honors bachelor in biochemistry. So an honors is like where you do like a huge research project in your 4th year. So it kind of just transitioned into that, and that created like 3 years of continuous research for me. Got a couple posters, speaking, publications, and it was great. I got my name on a few papers as a consequence of that, and so it just kind of happened because I was interested in it. But how do you actually do that is, find a local university, a local faculty of medicine where there's researchers. Go browse through all of them. They have emails available online. Go look at what they're doing, and then create an email template that says, hey, my name is so-and-so, I'm interested in medicine, I'm interested in learning about XYZ. But within the email, make sure you outline the specific thing that they're doing research on. So if they're doing research about HIV, say, hey, I saw you doing research on HIV and finding ways of neutralizing it. I find that so interesting. Could we connect sometime, because I would love to volunteer or do research in your lab. And just something like that, a very, 2-3 lines of email, but it shows that it's specific to them because you've looked up what they're doing, as opposed to just a generic, hey, I'm a pre-med, I want to do research, can I work with you? No one cares. They get like thousands of emails, and you'll just get kind of skimmed over. So And to be fair, expect that to happen. I've spent so much time emailing 100 people, and probably like 10 got back to me, and then only really 2 showed actual interest. Like I think a few got back to me, I replied back, and then radio silence. So it's okay. You know, everyone's busy, everyone has their own life, but I would say the best way is that just to cold email, and then actually put in the email what you find interesting about their research and what you want to do, and then just send it out. And then at some point you'll have at least 1 or 2 people who are going to be open to having you come into the lab, do research, and then just get involved. And then you could do an honors if you like, or just do a side research project. Ideally, if you can get some publications or even like a poster presentation, amazing. That looks great for your med school application. So that's kind of how you get a research supervisor. How you structure the summers is another question that I get. They're like, well, you know, when do I write my MCAT? When do I apply to med school? When do I do this research stuff? What if I want to get a job? So the way I did it, I'll just kind of tell you how I did it, and then you can kind of adapt to what your situation is. After the end of second year summer, I went to India, did the volunteerism thing with the orphanage. And then at the end of third year, and that summer is when I wrote my MCAT. So I basically worked in the research lab the whole summer because I got that research studentship. I did a prep course, and then I basically only had weekends, like Saturday, Sunday to study, and I would study 10 to 12 hours, like nonstop for 3 months, like no social life, nothing. I just, the way I looked at it is like, if I sacrifice 1 month of summer and socializing and crush this MCAT, then that's going to take me a long way, which it did. And so that's what I did. And then, you know, beginning of 4th year, you apply to medical school. If that doesn't work, then you're applying to medical school, end of 4th year, end of 5th year, whatever you may end up doing. So that's kind of how the med school application works. What you should do with your summers, I think at the end of 1st year, that summer, you should probably just take off, do something to enjoy, travel, whatever. If you already have something you're interested in and you're passionate about, whether it's research or you're doing some sort of volunteer work, commit yourself to it. I think that's great because it just builds that continuity. But I remember, I think I just traveled that summer, and then the second summer I did the volunteerism thing. So summers, I would say, dedicate to either research or things you're passionate about. At least the summers after 2nd, 3rd, and 4th year. Those are the most important. And then that gives you like 3 years of like some sort of continuity in those things. And so that's how I would schedule my summers. And, you know, I had a friend who was studying for the MCAT, but didn't want to do it in one go. So he split it up into 2 summers with like a school year in between, which ends up being quite tricky. So I would recommend, if you're studying the MCAT, like go hard for 2 months and just sacrifice everything else. And it's going to pay off. There's no need to prolong the suffering. Like that's how I see it. Like just go commit yourself fully to it, go hard for 2 months, crush the MCAT, and then you're good. And then I think the score is valid for several years. So then you're chilling. So that's kind of what I would suggest for that. And then the last thing was, you know, the strength of the application. I kind of talked about it earlier in the video, but to reiterate, the things that will make a strong application are things that you do that are actually interesting for yourself, you're excited and passionate about doing, and you do it for a long period of time because of the commitment. And it just shows that you're able to stick to one thing over time and produce some sort of results. Whether that's, you know, I remember for the relay thing, on my application, I put how much money I raised over the years, right? And it just shows something like a tangible, objective outcome from my commitment and time and effort. And that's what we look for when we're reviewing the applications. You're like, okay, you did this, but what? Like, you did it for 3 months, cool, so you got some experience, but that doesn't necessarily translate into anything meaningful. And so if you do a research internship, see if you can continue throughout the year. I did it like throughout the med school or throughout the undergraduate year. And I would go after classes to run some experiments, write like the research articles for colleagues just to help them out. There are so many ways you can get involved, and the more you kind of commit yourself and throw yourself into whatever you're doing, the more tangible outcomes you'll get, that which you can put on the med school application that will then stand out for you and will make you kind of a top candidate. And then the last little tip about making strong applications is using good wording. You know, instead of saying, if, for example, when I was a pharmacy tech, I could have, you know, I helped the pharmacist fill prescriptions. That's not the same as, you know, educated patients about common conditions and side effects of medications. Like that just sounds way more active. So I would say use words that reflect action and are more active than passive. Saying like I helped or I did, like that's more passive. Stuff like perform, educate, stuff like that would be like way more relevant. It just depends on what context you're writing it in. Or raise the money, whatever. Like that stuff would probably be the most impactful, because again, people are reading very quickly, so you want to use keywords, active action words that stand out and make an influence or an impact on whoever's reading that really quickly. Anyway, that's kind of the whole video for now. I have those 3 qualities again. If you can, those 3 objectives I've covered, and if you have questions, concerns, you want help with your med school app, comment or DM me, and be sure to follow and subscribe if you find the content helpful. Thanks.